Bingo.
You don't disappoint, Dr. Jones.
That's right. If there's a Knight of the First Crusade down here, that's where we'll find him.
In his search for precious objects, Indiana Jones uses some pretty basic tools.
Get a light.
Let's face it, other than his gun, his whip, his fists, and his wits, there's really not much technology involved.
Archaeology is not an exact science.
But remember, Indy was working in the 1930s.
Times have changed greatly, and archaeologists no longer practice archaeology or hunt for objects in the way that Indiana Jones did. The modern archaeologist is very, very much a scientist and a detective.
Developments in new technology are happening at lightning speed. It's a very exciting time to be an archaeologist. These range from DNA analysis to radiocarbon dating, new advances in computer data collection and modeling, as well as robotics in deep underwater excavation.
As technology advances, how do the new methods benefit archaeologists in the field? One of the newest and most exciting methods recently introduced to archaeology is GPR.
GPR is an acronym for Ground Penetrating Radar. It is a device that will allow us to look down into the ground and map archaeological sites without ever turning a shovel full of dirt in advance. And that way we can plan excavations, we can save a lot of time, focus our energy on specific areas. Ground penetrating radar was actually developed by the U.S. government and the military to look for tunnels in Vietnam. Roman sites are really great for ground penetrating radar because Romans built such substantial buildings and foundations. This is a Roman temple that we found at the site of Petra in present-day Jordan. And it was in an area that was flat. It had no architecture, and we did ground penetrating radar in this area, and right in the middle of this open field was a buried Roman temple. It was amazing. And what was so amazing about it is as we were collecting the ground penetrating radar, we could see the temple appearing on the computer screen almost in real time. And sure enough, there it was, in an area where nobody had a clue such a thing was still preserved under the ground.
While GPR is helping archaeologists find artifacts buried at existing sites, how are new sites found in the first place? Surprisingly, one answer can be found not on the ground, but in the sky. Thanks to NASA's newest generation of satellites, today's archaeologists can literally make discoveries from space.
Especially in places where there's dense forest cover. The way satellite archaeology helps us is by enabling us to use the forest itself in order to find those sites that it would otherwise hide. Essentially, sensors on satellites orbiting hundreds of miles above the Earth can pick up very small changes in the way leaves of trees reflect sunlight. And that slight difference led us to new archaeological sites. And everything that you see in red is that high canopied forest. And everything that you see in blue is the low canopied forest. And these sort of discolored greenish yellow patches are archaeological sites. If I zoom in and overlay our map of San Bartolo, you can see the degree to which the known ruins have conformed to that actual vegetation signature. What we were able to do with this high-resolution imagery is pick out individual structures hidden beneath the forest canopy. We decided that this location here would be a great place to test. That essentially, we should be able to walk from point A across this area that shows up as red and see no architecture whatsoever. And then, upon reaching the other side of that red area, we should be able to find architecture there. And when you do that, there it is.
Technology is not just helping archaeologists in the field. The discoveries are just beginning, and once back in the lab, the science really kicks in.
Archaeology has come a long ways.
And so it came from digging in the dirt every day. It's kind of glorified gardening. And now what we do is we take three-dimensional rendering and we can actually walk through what it would have been like to be there in the site. To me, the future of archaeology is actually here. Now what we can do using computers is to reconstruct archaeological sites in virtual reality. And we rebuild these sites based on the remains. The archaeological classroom of the future is equipped with computers and with projectors that allow us to show digital reconstructions of ancient sites. So what you're seeing is this map scanned, and then I go through and model it with the virtual reality tools. And then once we model it, we can raise it into 3D, all the vertical walls first, and then all the horizontal walls, roofs, thresholds, things like that, steps. And then what we can do is, once we get it here into the visualization portal, is we can actually go down into the site. So instead of having a blueprint, we can actually bring the site back up into 3 dimensions. I've been working at Qumran, and Qumran is the site of the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Very important documents that tell us a lot about early Judaism. And so what you're seeing, it doesn't exist, but it's based on all the facts, is a reconstruction of some kind of settlement that was once a fortress, then it was abandoned, and then it was reoccupied by a group of people who were responsible for collecting the scrolls that we found in the caves. One of the things that we find at Qumran was very important was the fact that they all ate together. And we know this from the archaeology. Peter, if we could go back towards the millstone, here we go. Now we know that this area in here is a dining hall for a couple of reasons. One, it's the longest room in the building. Number two, there was a pantry just to the south of it. And in the pantry was found like 70 sets of cups, bowls, plates, things like that. And so not only can we model in virtual reality the walls of the buildings, but if we find an artifact, we can actually take that artifact, go into a different modeling situation and spin the wheel, actually make the bowl that they would have eaten out of. This was all science fiction for a while. This was kind of the archaeology of the future. But as you can see, this is the archaeology of today. Not just being able to look or read about archaeological remains, but to actually sit here and experience it, to actually walk through an entire site. You really can almost reach out and touch it. This is what it felt like. This is what it looked like. To see what it was like to be in the space, that makes all the difference in the world. Most students come to the class expecting archaeology to be like Indiana Jones. They expect the hat, and they expect the bullwhip. And I pull out a computer.
High-tech computer methods are the future of an aspect of archaeology. But you will never get away from digging things up. Ultimately, we're going to have to excavate it to learn much more. So it becomes another tool in the archaeologist's toolkit for doing things in ways that we never even considered doing before.